A Canadian paper report has revealed that Trudeau's aides leaked confidential information about Bharat and claimed Delhi interference, quote unquote, in Ottawa's affairs to a United States newspaper, the Washington Post. Now, despite the Royal Canadian Mounted Police or the RCMP putting an embargo on publicly announcing sensitive information pertaining to Bharat, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's National Security Advisor and Deputy Foreign Minister went ahead and leaked classified information. This is out there in Canadian media, ladies and gentlemen. Trudeau had earlier criticized the leaking of the classified information about China's interference to the Globe and Mail, saying that a leak is a criminal act. So if a leak about the MSS's open interference and activity on Canadian soil to a Canadian national daily is a criminal act, then what is this, Mr. Justin Trudeau? What is this that the Canadian daily has now reported your own aides did with the Washington Post? Now, the leak in India's case, where the Trudeau government cast aspersions about Bharat, did not spark any reaction from Justin Trudeau. Why, we ask? Even in front of the Foreign Interference Committee, where he gave a testimonial last week, Justin Trudeau has levelled charges against Bharat without proof, substantiated by him, where he claimed he had no evidentiary proof at that point of Bharat's role in K-terrorist Nijjar's murder. And the MEA here in Bharat has said that since September 2023, not an ounce of proof has been shared beyond what was shared in September 2023. And embarrassed Trudeau is facing more dissent now from his own MPs. And this is big news. And this was confirmed or claimed by the opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, saying that nearly about 40 MPs are ready to raise their voice in the caucus later tonight here in Bharat and early morning in Canada, ahead of this crucial caucus meeting. Multiple news outlets, including CBC, have reported that some Liberal MPs hope to present a letter to Trudeau signed by the caucus members calling on him to resign. Even the leader of opposition, Pierre Poilievre, has said about 40 Liberal members are noting that Canadians know already that the Prime Minister is neither worth the cost, the crime and the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. We got more news.
Mr. Speaker, we now learn there are about 40 Liberal MPs that believe that this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost, crime, and corruption. But there's this strange rule in the Liberal caucus that you need to have permission from the Prime Minister to speak at the microphone.
Now, according to intel sources, the Trudeau government named outgoing High Commissioner Sanjay Verma under political compulsions and as part of a conspiracy to please the Khalistanis or the K-goons or the lot that is there within the Canadian polity and administration. The Trudeau government is a minority government and will fall any day. That's what intel sources tell CNN News 18. Due to political compulsions, they are risking diplomatic relationship with India. Naming Sanjay Verma as a person of interest is nothing but a desperate attempt to show that they are doing everything possible against Bharat. The sources said that India has been seeking evidence in the Nijjar case for the past 1 year, but there has been no response in black and white. The sources said that Canada is becoming the hub of gangsters and Khalistani goons and criminals who are given shelter, visa and citizenship on fast-track basis. The Indian government is very clear that the Trudeau government is not cooperating on many extradition requests that we have made. Panun is threatening Indian diplomats on social media and running illegal activities in India on a daily basis, but no action has been taken. And there is more, ladies and gentlemen. And Bharat is likely to press for extradition of Canada-based terrorists with three specific names. Three specific first information reports or FIRs as part of the dossier. According to intelligence sources, the detailed dossiers will be shared on common platforms. The United States, Canada, Australia and the UK will be apprised of the activities of the terrorists operating from Canada. So that means Bharat is going to take this dossier to the rest of the Five Eyes nations and tell them this is what Canada is doing. Now you act on it. Canada is not sensitive about the demands of Bharat. Seeks for Justice chief and Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Panun is operating from the UK, US and Canada. He's an American national. Many are alleging, is he an intelligence or a CIA plant is a big question. A team is already there in the US and there have been some progressive discussions with the American counterparts. Meanwhile, intel sources are saying that Panun is given every possible threat. He's giving every possible threat to Bharat, but there is no response by the nations. Indian missions, Hindus, Sikhs have all been attacked by SFJ and their own cadre. Despite many requests by Bharat, there has been no action against him. He and his goons have constantly also insulted the tricolour, tread on it, burnt it, torn it and pulled it down, and also created all the ruckus across the various embassies of Bharat in these Five Eyes nations. Intel sources have also added that the SFJ threatened the Indian ambassador and missions along with the role in murders and extortion gangs operating in Punjab. Moreover, Sandeep Singh Sidhu is employed by the Canada Border Service Agency and has links with Khalistan terrorists such as Lakhbir Singh and US-based Gurjot Kaur. This is also important for Bharat to know that we need to probe Sandeep Sidhu's role and they need to make him available to us. So far, that's not been done. Ashdallah is radicalizing youth in criminal activities and many attacks have happened after his incitement. These men are accused of crimes ranging from extortion to terrorism with suspected ties to Pakistani agents, sources have said. There is also the aspect of Goldie Brar. Meanwhile, CNN News 18 has further accessed and on multiple occasions reported how Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence or ISI is backing terror activities from Canada and many separatists are on their payroll. According to intel sources, the ISI in recent years has penetrated deep into the immigration cartel in Canada, hiring Indian youth and gangsters and the drug smuggling racket and using them for anti-India protests as legs or heads there in front. Foot soldiers. The drug cartel has also been forcing girls from Punjab into prostitution business. Intel sources have said the penetration of Pakistan and Pakistan's ISI in Trudeau's party is very critical. Bilal Chima is close to them and is operating on behalf of the ISI, which is funding Trudeau. Chima was involved in major thefts of Visa and MasterCards of Liberal Party and also thereafter was saved by Sukh Dhaliwal from serious prosecution. Whenever Justin Trudeau comes to the British Columbia, he is a resident at their homes. That's what intel sources are telling CNN News 18. Top government sources have also told CNN News 18 that the Canadian Parliament is full of Khalistan sympathizers and they've taken Trudeau for a right royal ride. How can a Prime Minister on the basis of only intelligence that's been given by some individuals name and blame a whole nation and severe or deeply affect diplomatic relations, decades of diplomatic equations? Intel sources said Trudeau has gone public and even on international forums before talking to Bharat. It's Bharat's job to seek evidence before moving an investigation at our end. But in the last 1 year, no evidence has been provided despite asking more than 20 times. That's what government sources are telling CNN News 18. The Indian NSA, National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, asked multiple times across to his counterpart, but there was no response. They were busy leaking confidential info, state secret to another nation's national daily, responding to Bharat with credible proof. Trudeau is misguided and governed by Khalistani and ISI elements and he is adamant to spoil the relationship is what government sources are telling CNN News 18. Let's go across to our guests. There's been a lot of the preamble and setting of context that we've done, multiple issues, leaking of sensitive state info to another nationals daily, the revolt from within, whether ahead of the caucus, nearly 40 Liberal MPs want Trudeau out. They want him to reconsider continuing because his approval ratings are at an all-time low. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, former Secretary MEA with us, Terry Milersky, author is with us, Daniel Boardman, Canadian journalist is with us. Namaste. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Daniel Boardman, is this true? Claims made by Pierre Poilievre, what's doing the rounds ahead of the caucus, there is a serious revolt against Justin Trudeau within the Liberals itself?
So this has been rumored for the last week, and we just had, allegedly, apparently the Red Notice petition leaked online. I took a look at it, and the claim is that there's 40 Liberal MPs who want to oust Trudeau. With anything like this in Canadian politics, I take a firm "I'll believe it when I see it" stance. So if I mean, there is a high chance that this is your proverbial nothing burger. That all these liberals, when the light is shined on them, instantly back down, wither, and go into a hole and say, "Oh no, we were just talking about some leadership things, and we think the prime minister is getting some bad advice, and he should replace your staffer." And then that all dies there. Could they, have the backbone and try and force him out and force an election? That may be it. Again, we never really know what's going on in between these parties, but it has been a very firm cult of personality for the last few years. If you remember, Canadians remember SNC Lavalin, the famous, that was the craziest scandal. Justin Trudeau shouldn't have been allowed 500 minutes within Parliament after SNC Lavalin, but he kicked Jody Wilson-Raybould, who was a very respected cabinet member, Indigenous woman who wouldn't, basically intercede on behalf of the Prime Minister's office to create new laws and thus merge the Prime Minister's office with the legislature and the judiciary. And he kicked out Jane Philpott as well, who was the health minister, who backed Jody Wilson-Raybould. And since then, it's been a very firm my way or the highway. And anyone who's sort of deviated from the Trudeau path, and that was 2017, has had their career destroyed. So you're counting on the people who've been browbeaten for 10 years to come out, and they might do that. Again, this all might be more political theater because the Liberals have another scandal pushing where we basically uncovered a $400 million slush fund that the Liberals have been using to enrich themselves. One of the ways they've been using to enrich themselves. And Parliament wants them to hand over the documents, or Parliament's forcing them to hand over the documents. They will not. So they might prorogue Parliament, essentially suspend it. To buy more time. So there's many different ways that Parliament can go in the next few days. Right. And again, with Canadian parliamentary talk and leaks from the press here, I'm firmly believe it when I see it. So whatever we see today, that's what it was. And we can speculate, and will I be very happy if the 40 MPs say we're forcing a non-confidence vote and we have an election next month? Yes, I would. But I am not planning on that happening.
Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti, your thoughts, sir? The current situation where Bharat is now going to share more details with the Five Eyes, rest of the Five Eyes nations.
Well, we have been sharing details. These are not new things that have been happening between Canada and India. It goes way back to the Kanishka bombing and things like that. And over the years, I think the government of India has also issued various, sent information. I think there's 27 dossiers or something have been shared, information has been shared. But Canada says this is not enough. And I don't know what is enough, who defines enough. And whether they will act on this or not, we know that they won't because of domestic politics. So I think we are just going to try again, and which is fair. I think that let us see whether anything has changed. But I don't think they will act on it because now we have this new problem of accusations from Canada about Indian involvement in the murder of this fellow, whatever his name is, Nijjar or something.
Hardeep Nijjar.
So I think I don't expect anything positive to come out of this. Whereas what it has done is that the two things important here. Whatever has happened with Canada has more or less united India in many ways.
Yes.
But whatever has happened in Canada has not united them, because I think there is now dissension and dissent. There has always been dissent. Every political party in a democratic setup has dissent. But I don't know whether this dissent is going to, become overwhelming, that it becomes, kind of a breaking point where the government has to resign or something. I don't know, and I doubt it because the government, like Justin Trudeau, will obviously hit back with whatever measures he has. Obviously, I'm not saying illegal measures, but legal. So I do not know how he will get back on, try to face these 40 MPs, as mentioned, and how they will react to all this. Anyway, it's a bit of a
But let me also ask you: is it possible for Trudeau to muscle on and to make the utterances that he did without having a tacit backing of the American deep state, the CIA there, and the American establishment? Is it possible? Because he quoted federal sources. He very clearly indicated that the information had been shared by America to him.
That's quite possible that the information came to him. Information in the sense that the finger pointing, that, you better look at this Nija murder because we think, India is behind this. Because they already had some info on the Panu case.
Yeah.
And Panu is I think is a dual citizen of both Canada and USA. So they must have shared this info. Whether he got it, or they may have suspected, they may have certain inputs, wiretaps or something like that, and then they got this information from the Americans. So they put 2 and 2 together and then decided that there was an Indian hand. But I'm surprised as to why, without evidence of the sort that the Americans seem to have collected,
right?
Justin Trudeau went on the front foot and made it public and accused India.
See,
now the situation where it's a logjam, and I really don't know how they are going to deal with it, and how both countries are going to see ahead if relations are to be stabilized.
But Terry, what's your assessment? The Americans, under the Five Eyes and intelligence sharing, point in a particular direction, or is Justin Trudeau acting on the wishes or the nudge of the Americans, or is he doing it because of the compulsion that a Jagmeet Singh is sitting, breathing down, and he is staying afloat because of NDP support? Is this the NDP, Jagmeet Singh, the WSO influence that we are seeing, Terry? And do you see the liberal...
In summary, and I really think that what explains all of this is really not so much politics as crime. Crime happens regardless of whether Trudeau's future is assured or not. It's extremely shaky. We all know that he's probably finished in politics. If there were an election held tomorrow, that would certainly be the outcome. But that's not... I don't think either he or the United States is manipulating events to make it seem that something bad is going on with India, in Canada, and the United States. It just happens that at the same time, it seems that India has been, according to the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the Canadian government, meddling criminally in US and Canadian waters to include crimes up to and including murder. We now have a problem for the Indian government that these cases are not going away. The Indian government can denounce leaks and the like, which is comical. Number one, the leaks to the Washington Post, the source of this story, the Globe and Mail, they didn't call it classified information, sensitive information. Oh dear, somebody leaked sensitive information to the Washington Post. Oh, that's so terrible. Come on, it's trivial. The real issue is that for India, they're coming down the track. They've got about 30 individuals charged with real offenses, about 8 charged with murder, about 22 charged with extortion. This is serious stuff. That evidence, which can't be the Canadian law, you can't just release it. That evidence is going to come out in court. It will be released, be cross-examined in transparent trials, which are going to, I think, embarrass India badly. So it's probably a good idea for the Indian government to cool it on what an idiot Trudeau is and vilifying him personally and looking for plots and explanations by why he's saying these things to shore up his political position. Well, it's not shoring up his political position, and it wouldn't anyway. It's not going to make a difference.
No, but here, Terry, these elements, these gangsters have been given Canadian citizenship. Now, the Canada cannot turn around and ask Bharat that why have India, why have you given them passports? But point is, it's Canada which has allowed somebody entry into these into their own soil and given them Canadian citizenship. And if they are running gangs and if they are running drug cartels, and it's documented that one of the biggest drug hauls on Canadian soil has happened with which was drugs worth nearly about $61 million, if my memory serves me right, and this happened in 2020-21.
This will emerge too at trial, and it's a real problem, and you're right to point the finger. These are the real issues. And the other issues, a headline story saying, oh my God, Canadian officials have leaked the Washington Post. I mean, just get a grip, guys. That's not what this is about. Nobody cares. They can leak to whoever they want. Doesn't make any difference. Nothing illegal about it. I'm just saying to you that we need to get all sides focused on crime, not politics, because that is the allegation.
I buy your point, but you would also appreciate that this crime is directly linked to the politics of Canada, Daniel. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are elements who are part...
I apologize, I have to run. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Terry's got a lot right here, and I agree with a lot of him. And listen, this is a crime problem, an organized crime problem. It's a tolerance of crime problem. It's all this down. It's a student visa fraud program where gangsters are coming in as students to Canada to study at a fake school and all this different stuff. I understand that, listen, I've been very understanding of the Indian point of view here, which is, okay, you've been accused of now running a whole crime syndicate of extortion racket throughout the country of Canada. Now, the actual issue is there's a massive crime and extortion racket that's popped up in Canada over the last 10 years because of the policies we've introduced. Is now the claim to thread the needle here, what it looks like to me, and again, I'm highly skeptical and I've been traumatized by 10 years of Trudeau, but I would not be surprised if, listen, there probably is something here. What if the Indian government was sticking its finger on the internal gang wars of Canada sometimes, right? Because you have Niger, you have other people, and the Indians might felt, okay, at some points we're going to use some of these gangsters that are here. If we can't get them extradited back to India, okay, we might put our finger on the scale here, and there. Okay, let's say that hypothetically to happen. What you might see from the Trudeau government is to build up India as a scapegoat, where all these different problems that he created under his tenure of crime, drug running, visa frauds, all this, if the Indian government just sort of put their finger on it, right, they might then blame them with the creation of everything. So for Trudeau, this could be a great political football where you get something on the Indian government, and anytime there's an issue of, okay, we banned guns, but there's so many more guns in the street, right? There's so much violent crime, there's so much more drug running, there's so much more all of this, there's so much more extremism. It gives Trudeau potentially an excuse to say, well, the Indian government was part of all this and there's foreign interference going on, when the real foreign interference, it is foreign interference, I agree. But this was all paid for with Pakistani money, Chinese money, and this particular government, maybe the Iranians more than Muslim Brotherhood.
No, but here's the counter argument. Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti, had Trudeau's establishment over the last 10 years responded to our letter rogatories, extradited these individuals who are operating out of Canadian soil, then this whole standoff in the first place would not have happened. Niger was always a person of interest for us. He had an Interpol Red Corner notice in 2016, and he was given citizenship or PR entry into Canada after 3 rejections in 2018. So the Canadian authorities already knew that he has a red corner against him. So
this is indicative of, we created a problem, we knew about a problem, and then at the end of the problem, there's potentially a little Indian spice, let's say, thrown in. And we're pretending the spice is the entire dish, so to speak.
True. Ambassador Chakravarti.
Well, we all know this. The history is too well known to be repeated again and again. Sense that these kind of people who went from here were encouraged to come there, to go to Canada, given visas, given citizenship, and they took their crime syndicates there and they started, crime syndicates and various kinds of activities there. Plus the so-called Khalistanis who have been sort of, hurling abuse and threats, etc. at India, Indian leaders, Indian diplomats. All this was, brushed under the carpet under the rubric of freedom of speech. Now we have information that these gangsters have conducted actually killings in Punjab, and some of them have been caught. So I think if you are using Canadian soil to conduct operations in India like assassination or bumping off somebody, because drugs and all these things, Khalistanis, we have a Khalistani movement, and it was a pretty bloody movement in India, in Punjab. And so they are still, imbued with that vision that we will create a, Palestine or whatever, and we will kill, all those who oppose us. That view still exists, and they try to operate that kind of, to implement that kind of view long distance with Canada. Sending money, for example, to criminals in Punjab. Now, if Canada says all this is okay, this is freedom of speech, and it doesn't matter if India is complaining, and because Justin Trudeau is probably doesn't want to do anything because this is his constituency, which he has nurtured for a long time. So that is the complication ultimately. And where India came later is, I do not know. There is no evidence. Okay, if India came in, there is the evidence. Show us the evidence. That's what India has generally been asking. And so that is the issue here. Now, whether the killings have been done in gang warfare or whether somebody from India encouraged them to do it, that is a question of speculation.
Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti, I request you to stay on with us. We're going to take a short break. Daniel, thank you very much. On the way out, just quickly taking you through these visuals coming in live from Kazan as Prime Minister Narendra Modi is making his way out of Russia after the Brics Summit concludes and post the second day session. There was the bilateral engagement that lasted for about 35 minutes with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. And the energy quite positive. We will try and talk about that in a bit. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'd also bring you the first images of the terrorist involved in the Gandarbal attack that's been accessed here at CNN News 18. That's the picture. We get you the details when we are back. Stay with us.
Narendra Modi will meet with President Xi Jinping today. This, of course, on the sidelines of the Brics Summit. Currently, the plenary session is underway where Brics leaders are present. A short while ago, Brics family photo was also taken, and we've been keeping up with those visuals coming in from Kazan in Russia. Now, the upcoming Modi-Xi meeting today marks the first face-to-face encounter between the two leaders since 2019. This was much before the Galwan episode, remember. Notably, this is the third time India and China have addressed border issues ahead of a multilateral summit, having done so in 2017 and 2022 as well. While specific details of the agreement remain undisclosed, it aims to prevent future clashes and return troops to their positions before the 2020 standoff. After 51 meetings at diplomatic and military levels, Prime Minister Modi's push for de-escalation is gaining traction. However, geopolitical experts remain cautious. They say the real test will be whether China upholds this new agreement. So there's a lot of caution that India continues to exercise. But before we talk about the several aspects of the bilateral that's to take place later this afternoon, I want to go across to my colleague Siddhant joining us with more details. Siddhant, tell us what we're learning in the latest from the Brics Summit. We have the plenary session currently underway. Very powerful images that have constantly been coming to light, including, that firm gesture on part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What's going on? What can you tell us?
Right now, we're getting to know from our sources that that the restricted format plenary session is going on, and after which Prime Minister could likely make an intervention at the plenary session. Now, all the leaders have already arrived at the venue, and in fact, there was a group photograph, family photograph also of the Brics family, and in fact, Prime Minister Modi could be seen standing next to President Putin, and on the other side, Chinese President Xi Jinping was standing. Perhaps a very powerful message that these three leaders are sending out to the world, to the Western world especially. Also, in fact, let's draw the viewers' attention to the photographs which has been released by the BRICS Secretariat yesterday, in which the three of these leaders, the founding members of BRICS, having a candid moment and enjoying concert in Kazan. Those were the really powerful photographs, and perhaps that is how President Putin wanted the BRICS to happen, because it's an opportunity for President Putin, because he wanted this platform, he wanted this global platform to send a message to the West that look, the West, as West was trying to corner President Putin, but the message is that my partners and my friends are still very much with me, and look, all have arrived to attend the BRICS Summit. Also, the one message which in fact India would also be willing to give, especially in these times when the difference with the West is perhaps making headlines, that as far as the border issue is concerned with China, in fact the other issues, the payment mechanism, the trade, transport corridors, maritime domain, we have our own ecosystem, we have our own grouping which is called as BRICS. India is the founding member of BRICS. The entire economy of the BRICS nation surpasses the combined economy of the G7 countries. The BRIC countries represent more population and perhaps also the aspirations of the countries from the global south. So that is also the message which India would like to send to the world, that when it comes to the border issues, we discuss it on a one-to-one basis bilaterally. We don't go to the multilateral forums, and ahead of any summit we resolve those issues. And that is exactly what is happening today, as Prime Minister Modi is going to meet President Xi Jinping later in the day, and after which the patrolling arrangements could get announced by both the sides. So it's a lot of messaging, lot of optics, and this particular optics will perhaps work in India's favor. And also for the multipolar world, this was something which one geopolitical expert told me a few days back, that for a multipolar world, a strong Russia is very important. And India is perhaps walking on that path, that a weaker Russia will always tilt more towards China. A stronger Russia is important for India and is in India's interest. And also if India talks about multipolarity, then for a multipolar world,
Back on with the pictures of the terrorist who made the attack, who attacked the innocents at the Zedmore tunnel. This is CCTV footage. Video has also emerged as key evidence in the probe. There you see, this is the person, and very clear imagery with a bag, with an advanced weapon in their hand, looking out for signals or cameras. But those are the 4 images that we have accessed. There is also video. 2 terrorists had entered this worker colony, and the CCTV capturing the terrorists lobbing a grenade at a vehicle and also torching it before fleeing. Now, sources are also telling CNN News 18 that an OGW or an overground worker could have helped with the recce and also figuring out access into this worker colony. The hunt is on for the overground worker through technical and digital investigation. The cops also suspect that a vehicle might have been used for facilitating the escape of the terrorists. Ishan Wani with us, and Arunima is also with us. Yes, Ishan.
Well, clearly images showing that they were up for a larger carnage, and somehow they were not able to execute their plan as they might have liked. CCTV images clearly show that they have AK-47 rifles with them and they're carrying bags, and Eyewitness had earlier said that they had blankets and shawls wrapped around them when they entered, and they opened fire indiscriminately whoever they saw, and then injured multiple people. But what we have been also told by our sources that they would have attempted a much larger injury and inflicted more casualty. They somehow left the camp. They felt threatened and they left the camp and escaped towards the mountainous area of that particular area. But clearly CCTV footage shows that they're looking for possible targets. They're looking for anyone who's working inside that particular area, because this area is just around the mountain edge, and if you go towards the left side of this camp, the mountains start and they have disappeared into these mountains. Yes, mountains becoming a really tough challenge for the security forces, but as we speak, we have been told by our sources that the army, police and other paramilitary forces are trying to monitor entire belt and try to ensure that all these people who are in these CCTV footages, they are trapped down, they are nabbed, or they are eliminated as soon as possible.
Right. Arunima also with us. Ishan, thank you for your inputs. Arunima, one of the inputs earlier was that one of these is a terrorist who's come back, re-entered Bharat from Pakistan and belongs to the TRF. Is there any confirmation on the identity of these two?
The identity question is still open, but the security grid is not fully accepting the TRF claim. We do know that how TRF, PAF, Lashkar, there are interchangeable cadre, even though they try and portray that TRF is a totally indigenous organization, that all its members are locals from Jammu and Kashmir. The fact that they have support from Lashkar, as does PAF. PAF is hardcore Lashkar. That is very clear to the agencies. Now, as far as what we have learned for investigation is concerned, the video grab at one of the gate clearly shows that there was a power failure in that particular area and a genset was on. These terrorists targeted the 3 prefab structures which were illuminated because of the genset being on, and they didn't just go inside the rooms and fire upon. They also came out, and there were some workers who were just crossing from those 3 prefab structures. They fired at them also. They saw a vehicle enter from a particular gate, and they targeted that vehicle also. The driver jumped off and saved his life. There was also a security guard in that vicinity who got injured. They then used a grenade to torch the vehicle and then left through that same gate from where CCTV has captured them. If you give me 30 seconds, I just want to emphasize that NIA, Jammu and Kashmir Police, the IB, the RAW, this is a multi-agency probe that is now happening, and they believe that a proper recce was carried out to know exactly how many security guards are present inside the premises. The fact that the security guards inside are not armed and therefore they will not face resistance, and how to escape. So they had come prepared, knowing very well the details, the topography, the security bandobast inside, and also how far the nearest CRPF bunker was. That they were the first responders, but it took them 10 minutes to come in.
Right. Thank you for your inputs, Arunima. Thank you. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us. When we come back, this 16th Brics Summit, is this also an indication of shifting global alignments? Stay with us.
Brought to you by
Narendra Modi will meet with President Xi Jinping today. This, of course, on the sidelines of the Brics Summit. Currently, the plenary session is underway where Brics leaders are present. A short while ago, Brics family photo was also taken, and we've been keeping up with those visuals coming in from Kazan in Russia. Now, the upcoming Modi-Xi meeting today marks the first face-to-face encounter between the two leaders since 2019. This was much before the Galwan episode, remember. Notably, this is the third time India and China have addressed border issues ahead of a multilateral summit, having done so in 2017 and 2022 as well. While specific details of the agreement remain undisclosed, it aims to prevent future clashes and return troops to their positions before the 2020 standoff. After 51 meetings at diplomatic and military levels, Prime Minister Modi's push for de-escalation is gaining traction. However, geopolitical experts remain cautious. They say the real test will be whether China upholds this new agreement. So there's a lot of caution that India continues to exercise. But before we talk about the several aspects of the bilateral that's to take place later this afternoon, I want to go across to my colleague Siddhant joining us with more details. Siddhant, tell us what we're learning in the latest from the Brics Summit. We have the plenary session currently underway. Very powerful images that have constantly been coming to light, including, that firm gesture on part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What's going on? What can you tell us?
Right now, we're getting to know from our sources that that the restricted format plenary session is going on, and after which Prime Minister could likely make an intervention at the plenary session. Now, all the leaders have already arrived at the venue, and in fact, there was a group photograph, family photograph also of the Brics family, and in fact, Prime Minister Modi could be seen standing next to President Putin, and on the other side, Chinese President Xi Jinping was standing. Perhaps a very powerful message that these three leaders are sending out to the world, to the Western world especially. Also, in fact, let's draw the viewers' attention to the photographs which has been released by the Brics Secretariat yesterday, in which the three of these leaders, the founding members of Brics, having a candid moment and enjoying concert in Kazan. Those were the really powerful photographs, and perhaps that is how President Putin wanted the Brics to happen, because it's an opportunity for President Putin, because he wanted this platform, he wanted this global platform to send a message to the West that look, the West, as West was trying to corner President Putin, but the message is that my partners and my friends are still very much with me, and look, all have arrived to attend the Brics Summit. Also, the one message which in fact India would also be willing to give, especially in these times when the difference with the West is perhaps making headlines, that as far as the border issue is concerned with China, in fact the other issues, the payment mechanism, the trade, transport corridors, maritime domain, we have our own ecosystem, we have our own grouping which is called as Brics. India is the founding member of Brics. The entire economy of the Brics nation surpasses the combined economy of the G7 countries. The BRIC countries represent more population and perhaps also the aspirations of the countries from the global south. So that is also the message which India would like to send to the world, that when it comes to the border issues, we discuss it on a one-to-one basis bilaterally. We don't go to the multilateral forums, and ahead of any summit we resolve those issues. And that is exactly what is happening today, as Prime Minister Modi is going to meet President Xi Jinping later in the day, and after which the patrolling arrangements could get announced by both the sides. So it's a lot of messaging, lot of optics, and this particular optics will perhaps work in India's favor. And also for the multipolar world, this was something which one geopolitical expert told me a few days back, that for a multipolar world, a strong Russia is very important. And India is perhaps walking on that path, that a weaker Russia will always tilt more towards China. A stronger Russia is important for India and is in India's interest.
The first bilateral between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Xi Jinping on the sidelines of Brics Summit in 5 years concluded. The meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping holds significance as New Delhi and Beijing announced on Monday that they have agreed to disengage and begin patrolling along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh, especially at the Depsang and the Demchok plains. This breakthrough ended a 4-year-long military standoff, or perhaps brought in some signs of thaw in that on that front. PM Modi welcomed the truce on the LAC and emphasized that border peace should be priority in meeting with Xi Jinping. Earlier in the day, PM Modi rejected double standards in addressing terrorism and called for a unified approach to combat the menace. The two leaders met for an informal summit in Mahabalipuram in October 2019, months ahead of the Chinese incursions in eastern Ladakh, and triggered a massive military standoff along the line of actual control. They did have pull-aside meetings in Bali in 2022 and Joburg in 2023, but today's meeting is the first proper and structured bilateral meeting. PM Narendra Modi posted on platform X minutes after his meeting with Xi Jinping. PM posted, and I quote, "Met President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Kazan Brics Summit. India-China relations are important for the people of our countries and for regional and global peace and stability. Mutual trust, mutual respect and mutual sensitivity will guide bilateral relations."
भारत और चीन के संबंधों का महत्व केवल हमारे लोगों के लिए ही नहीं, लेकिन वैश्विक शांति, स्थिरता और प्रगति के लिए भी हमारे संबंध बहुत अहम है। एक्सेलेंसी, सीमा पार पिछले 4 वर्षों में उत्पन्न हुए मुद्दों पर बनी सहमति का हम स्वागत करते हैं। सीमा पर शांति और स्थिरता बनाए रखना हमारी प्राथमिकता रहनी चाहिए। म्यूचुअल ट्रस्ट, म्यूचुअल रिस्पेक्ट और म्यूचुअल सेंसिटिविटी हमारे संबंधों का आधार बने रहना चाहिए।
Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti with us, Dr. Olga from the research fellow at the Russian Academy of Sciences with us, and Jennifer Zeng with us. My namaste to everyone. Thank you very, very much. Ambassador Pinakaranjan Chakravarti, your thoughts on this Brics Summit. Is this key? Is Bharat also sending a message across to the West that don't try and bully us, don't try and arm twist us, because this is a bloc that can recalibrate. Even the noises made with respect to Russia, the movement forward with China, are they indicating towards perhaps a certain amount of realignment?
If you believe the Western narrative, that may be so, but I don't believe that. I think India has its own interest in normalizing with China. And it's very simple. We are two large neighbors, the two largest countries in the world, with a disputed border, where we have seen military action in June 2020. And there were problems there, and huge amount of deployment has taken place of the military. And I think we reached a stalemate from which there had to be some arrangement to get out of it. And so if this agreement is implemented properly, I would welcome it, because that would, we have always maintained that peace on the border, while we talk about where the border is, that's why we call it the LAC, is a prerequisite for normal times. And that is what we have insisted. And that is what I think if we can reach that stage. Now, when you say status quo, I do not know whether it will be 100% restored, because deployments have taken place, new civilian and military structures have been created. Will they also be dismantled? I don't know. I mean, I don't think they will be. But at least there's some aspects of patrolling and others which existed at the time when this military action by China took place. I think that would restore some kind of normality, which might lead to various other doors opening, because at the moment there's a bit of a freeze, and there's a lot of problems in travel, there's a lot of problems in visa, investments that want to come in via China are not being allowed. Anyway, so those are some of the problems that could lead to. Now, if one wants to interpret it as a signal to the West, that is somebody who's sitting in the West might think so, but I don't. And I think there are other signals also that Russia is trying to create a separate group, separate bloc, and I think Russia has played a role perhaps between India and China.
True, just like India is trying to play a role between Russia and the Ukraine, but with Ukraine having America in the shadows, how much of that is going to manifest till the American entities want, or is the election going to decide all that? There are a lot of moving balls here. But Dr. Olga, how would you look at the Brics Summit and the statements made by some of the leaders, including President Putin? Is this significant, this meeting in Kazan, and why?
Yes, hello everybody. Well, I think that this meeting in Kazan is very, very important because, the Brics Summit is held for the 16th time, but this is the first time summit is held in an expanded format, and the list of participants is quite impressive, and we know that our President Putin holds about 20 bilateral meetings, including with all important major countries that will participate in the summit. So we can see that the Western attempts to isolate Putin kind of failed, and he is among friends and the political and geopolitical allies now. And another thing I think very important is that they are trying now to cope with financial risk and challenges. The creation, basically discussing the creation of a new payment system, because it's likely a priority of an agenda of this year's Brics Summit, because this measure will help BRICS countries to get rid of financial exploitation of the countries of the Global South in the international monetary system by the US and the West. And Russia, as current chair of BRICS, is striving in every possible way to facilitate the integration of new recruits into all cooperation mechanisms. And we see that the Business Council has warmly welcomed representatives from the new member countries, and they in turn have actively joined the work. So the main topic is BRICS and the Global South, jointly building a better world. And we all, of course, very welcome that the discussion focuses on current issues of interaction between the world's major states and increasing their role in shaping decisions on the international agenda. And India and Russia have a long history of friendship and cooperation, which is of strategic importance to both countries. And India's participation in BRICS is another channel for strengthening this partnership. Together with Russia, India contributes to the formation of opinions and decision-making within BRICS, which gives the alliance additional weight and authority in the international arena.
True.
And
yes, you know, one of the issues also is that the West paints Russia as an expansionist given its movement into Ukraine. Russia, on the other hand, has a point of view saying that it was NATO that was advancing and trying to even co-opt and engineered a regime change in the Ukraine, and they wanted to land and dock and use Ukraine borders to position their guns. And the only warm water access was via Ukraine for Russia. Otherwise, Russia would have found itself isolated trade-wise. The Sea of Azov and the Black Sea there. But for China, the issue with Bharat is that Bharat does not trust China since the 60s. In fact, even before that, there has been this entire expansionist intent of the PLA and the leadership there, the CCP. But Jennifer Zheng, do you believe there could be a change there? Will economic compulsions and perhaps larger strategic reasons compel President Xi to perhaps back off from the borders and this entire moving into territories?
I think yes and no. Yes is because Xi Jinping does face a lot of challenges, both internationally and domestically, especially the China's economy is going down and the financial system, real estate bubbles. And internationally, of course, I think China is facing a increasingly hostile environment, especially since the pandemic, and many countries are still calling to hold China responsible for the spread of the pandemic. But no is, I think is exactly because of the crisis that the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is facing. And I think there could generate a greater risk for the CCP to start a war, to bring the country into a war status. That could be viewed as the CCP as the only solution to all its crises, that it can't be solved otherwise. That's why you can see recently the CCP has escalated the military exercises, live fire exercises surrounding Taiwan, and has been very, very aggressive. So I think, yes, I agree. At this moment, the global geopolitics is at a very, I think, sensitive and critical moment, and people are talking about World War III has already started. So we do have to watch very, very carefully about what's going on.
So do you foresee China getting aggressive? Because the last time they backed off from Doklam, soon after a bilateral engagement, there was some issue. Even in 2019, after Mahabalipuram and the engagement, then 2020, the Galwan incursion happened. Do you believe that China could perhaps act again and that India cannot rest easy? We'll always have to be on alert mode.
Yes, I totally agreed because PM Moody talk about mutual trust, mutual respect, and I don't think you can expect any mutual trust and or any respect from China. Actually, I just right after the meeting between Xi Jinping and Modi, I searched on Chinese official media Xinhua. Xinhua only gave a very short, less than 200-word short report on the meeting, and it didn't mention one word about what PM Modi said during the meeting. It's all only quoted Xi Jinping for saying this or for saying that. So reading that report gave you an expression that Xi Jinping has given a lecture to Modi. And after less than 30 minutes, when I go to Xinhua's main page again, that short report about the meeting between Xi and Modi disappeared from the main page. I had to do a Google search to find that. So they have no photos there. So from the angle of how the Xinhua is reporting or covering this event, it says that China shows no respect or attach no importance, at least in the official propaganda machine, to this meeting. So maybe India think this is a great meeting of first in 5 years, but China doesn't put any importance to this.
So that's how the Xinhua or the Chinese state media has reacted to it. To the ladies and the gentlemen, we've got to break away from this conversation. There is a big development that's happened in Turkey. We've got reports and visuals coming through of an explosion outside the Turkish Aerospace headquarters near Ankara. There are dead and wounded, we are given to understand, and this is already being termed as a terror attack in Ankara. And this is, we are quoting the Turkey Interior Minister. Akanksha with us with more details. Yes, Akanksha.
Right, Anand, we are learning that this deadly terror attack has just taken place and it's targeted the Turkish Aerospace company, the TUSAS, and as you rightly highlighted, it has taken place in Ankara. And remember, the timing of this attack is very significant because the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, as we all know, is in the Russian city of Kazan attending the annual Brics Summit. We all know the kind of importance that Turkey has been bestowing on Brics. And so the timing of such an attack is extremely significant. We don't know as yet. This is a developing story that in terms of who could be responsible for this terrorist attack. But the social media informations and videos that are now surfacing, and CNN in fact has been geolocating them, they show that the TUSAS headquarters was targeted. And in fact, after the blast, a person holding a firearm is even seen running in what appears to be a parking lot. We are awaiting confirmation on the number of casualties, if there have been any. But visuals over there show emergency services responding to this attack at the Turkish Aerospace Industries in Ankara. And in fact, this is news just coming in, which has also been confirmed by Turkey's Interior Minister Ali Yerilakaya. We'll have to, in fact, wait and watch in terms of how many have been injured. But TUSAS is very important for Turkey, Anand. It was incorporated into Turkey's Ministry of Industry and Technology in 1973. So look at this as, in fact, a major attack at the Turkish establishment.
Well, we have to see who claims responsibility. There are multiple conversations that are doing the rounds. We'll wait for an official confirmation from the Turkish authorities here. The Turkey's Interior Minister has confirmed that there have been multiple casualties following this terrorist attack at the Turkish Aerospace Industries headquarters in Ankara. The attack has resulted in several deaths and injuries. That's what is being said, and this is Turkish media that is being quoted. There are other allegations, but there are videos that are being broken by wires and also by news platforms, which show a damaged vehicle and also an armed individual entering the bloc. Now we have to see if there is any particular group that takes responsibility or is blamed by the Turkish authorities for the same. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of The Right Stand. Brass Tacks with Zaka right now. Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The leaders of India and China met in Kazan in Russia on the sidelines of the Brics Summit. This was their first formal meeting in 5 years. The last one happened in Mahabalipuram in 2019. The relationship between India and China, of course, was derailed big time by the 2020 Galwan clash, after which multiple rounds of talks were held, both at the military level as well as the diplomatic level. Both leaders today, Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping, in their first meeting in half a decade, welcoming the recent breakthrough in the border impasse, the new patrolling mechanism or the new patrolling agreement, which was announced earlier this week by the MEA and corroborated by the Chinese Foreign Ministry. We don't know yet the finer details of what this patrolling arrangement will be. Is it a revert back to the pre-2020 status quo, or is this a new arrangement? But the bigger question is this. This is the first step towards moving in a direction of normalization. This is disengagement. There are two more steps to go: de-escalation and demilitarization or de-induction. But at the moot of it, after what happened in